Today I'm talking to Caroline Bean of Compass in Houston, Texas. Caroline became a realtor 9 years ago and doubles her business every year. In our interview, she talked about a simple approach of being available and knowing your market. She names the small things that go a long way in being an agent. We talk about keeping it simple and doubling your business. Welcome to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. I created this podcast because over the years that I've been an agent, from struggling to successful, I've found that the one thing, the one foundation that created the mindset, knowledge, and ability to break through to new levels was the camaraderie and sharing of ideas from other generous and successful agents. Those experiences catapulted my career. They gave me the inspiration and idea to further develop those friendships and share what they have had to share with me to make not only more successful careers for each of us, but a stronger community and better respect for our profession at large. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we have Caroline Bean of Compass in Houston, Texas on the show. Caroline, welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Jere. Thanks so much for having me.
So first of all, I always like to start with how and why did you become a real estate agent?
Well, I've grown up in a world of home building and interior design. My mom has been an interior designer since as long as I can remember, and my stepdad is a home builder, second generation home builder in Houston. So I just grew up in the world going to projects with my mom or my stepdad, and always really had a passion for homes and interior design. When I was in college, I majored in business marketing. Actually graduated when we had a big economic recession in 2007. So I decided to just not go on a commission straight job and worked for a big company for a few years. And then I decided that I wanted to follow my passion and got my real estate license and started as an assistant for a top agent here in Houston. And then later went on to start on my own in 2012.
So when were you an assistant? What year was that?
End of 2010 through 2011.
So you were an assistant for a year. And in 2007, what company did you work for?
I worked for American Building Maintenance.
Okay.
And I worked in sales and client relations. So I did that.
That was kind of a good one. You had a path though. You kind of, even if you didn't know, you were on it. You were on a clear path.
I knew I was always wanting to do something in real estate. I just really wasn't sure. And I think once I got my license and was able to have a little bit of experience with some agents and learn the ropes, I realized that that was really where I needed to continue my career path. And it's worked out pretty well.
That's awesome. So we had a recent interview with a arms dealer. He had a very different path. So it's like, you're like job, assistant, agent, rocking it very quickly. He was like selling scrubs, selling weapons. Yeah. I don't remember. It was in the military. What is it? IFD in Israel. Did I say that right? I hope I did. I'm showing my complete ignorance. I'm not even going to let Isaac edit it. I'm going to just let y'all know how ignorant I am. And then somehow he became a real estate agent through all that. But it's just, that's awesome. So you were laid out, lots of customer service experience, corporate job. I think it's always great to get some accountability going. Then you're an assistant with an agent, so you see how it's done. And then in 2012, which was not very long ago, by the way, 7 years ago, you decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger and be an agent. So with that previous experience, how did that feel? What did it look like? How did you get your first deal? What would we want to know?
So I was definitely a little bit nervous because I had been told by a lot of agents that were superior to me that this is a very hard industry to be successful in. It's going to take you a long time to get your first deal, and don't expect to make more than XYZ your first year. So a lot of agents, were not very encouraging about you going and starting your career. I mean, I guess I was excited. I had just been married, so I was excited about the new career opportunity, but I was also nervous. My very first client, when I was an assistant, I also helped out a lot of other agents. If they were traveling or needed extra help, if they didn't have a full-time assistant, they were able to hire us to fill in the gaps. And one of the agents had gone to Europe, and I had helped some of her clients purchase and list a house while I was in that role while she was in Europe. And they were really impressed with everything I had done for them. And they actually referred me to my very first client. So I had a client my very first week starting out on my own.
Oh,
and
wow.
They were going to buy their first home. And, I had probably 6 or 7 deals, maybe a couple leases my first year. And
that's huge, by the way. That's great.
Yeah. From then on, I've pretty much doubled my production every year.
So how do you double your business every year?
It's just been a mixture of things. One is referrals. And referrals have been ultimately my number one source of business, and just being a great advocate for my client, offering them great service, great advice, and helping them have as smooth transactions as possible. I'm now getting to the point in the last couple of years where I'm having a lot of my clients from when I just started selling and buying again. Mm-hmm. So everything is starting to really pick up, and I continue that to happen over the next few years. I'm sure there will be a point where I'm not going to be able to double every year, but so far it's been very consistent on that path. And I think having my clients be an advocate for me is huge. And then coming to Compass, we have such an amazing referral network group that I've been able to have different avenues of referrals from that as well.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about, what do you feel like is kind of your competitive edge in this industry? What makes you're not only started business your first year with like 7 deals, which is good. You're doubling that volume every year. What do you think is making you successful relative to so many people that get into this business and struggle?
I think I've been very lucky that I've able to continue my growth from referrals. But again, I give my clients, no matter buying or selling or price point, I give them all the same service, and I work very hard to make sure that my clients are happy, whether it's finding stuff that's on the market or if it's a coming soon or something that's even a for sale by owner. I feel like I'm very knowledgeable about the markets I work in, and my clients really appreciate that. And I think it shows when I'm working with them trying to close the deal. Again, I think just getting all these different referrals and then branching out has given me just such a huge network of clients in the Houston area, and then also people moving from different cities into Houston.
That's awesome. And you do so much business. I mean, I've given you a couple of referrals, and one of them was pretty small. It was pretty insignificant, and it was like, hey, if you want to take this on, it'd be great, but I understand if you don't. And you were like all over it. It was like I was referring you a $10 million listing. It was great. And I think for everybody, that speaks to why you're so successful, is that's how you treat business. Luck comes to those, or opportunity comes to those who arrive prepared, or there's a much better way that somebody like Oprah Winfrey put that, and a few other people.
Yeah, I treat all my clients the same. I don't care if you're doing a 2-month, corporate housing situation, or if they're buying a $10 million house. I mean, I truly feel that every client is just as important as the next. And It's not about the money for me. It's about making sure my clients are happy and they're getting the best service, because everybody deserves that. So I want to make sure that I uphold my reputation with that, and that nobody feels like they're getting a different level of service because they're not buying a very expensive home.
Exactly. I love that. That's great. What do you think, since you've gotten in the business, what has been kind of one of your biggest lessons learned, or just one of your biggest ahas about this business?
Every year, this business has gotten more challenging, and it's only because I've continued to grow my business. And the more you take on, obviously, the harder it is to juggle with business and family and social. And I think that I've learned so much, and I just remember there's so many agents that get into the business saying, I'm going to do real estate because it's so flexible and I make my own schedule and I don't have a boss. And
because I liked houses, that one.
Yeah, that, because I like looking
Guys,
at
it's good to like looking at houses, but there's a lot more to it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, somebody told me the other day, I have 30 different bosses a year because every different client I work for is essentially my boss, and I have to learn how to work for them, and everybody's different, which I thought was a great analogy because yes, we can make our own schedules to an extent, but we are working for our clients, and that's just the nature of our industry. Again, I absolutely love what I do and I wouldn't change it for anything, but it is not a job that you can go into saying, I'm going to work when I want to work, because if that's your mentality, you will never be successful.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
And I think another great thing that I've learned is because real estate is such, there's so much law that goes into it, and none of us, for the most part, have our legal degrees, that keeping everything in writing, whether it's in an email or a text message, and trying not to do as much verbally can really protect you if anything were to ever happen. And I've never had a bad experience from that, but there are times where I have thought, wow, I really wish I had that in writing, because this would make this situation a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. And following up, having conversations, this is what we discussed, per our conversation, just to kind of reiterate so that you make sure clients don't misunderstand. I mean, that's one of the best things. I do it not every time, and having an assistant helps you do that, but as consistently as possible, because it does. I mean, a lot of our job is obviously communicating, problem solving. Huge part of our job is problem solving, and finding people houses and deals they wouldn't have been able to put together otherwise. And it's not always finding the house. But on all of that, I think you've talked about, you're really good at when you work with a client, listening, understanding what they want, and finding the house they need, whether it's on or off the market. Tell us a little bit about how you feel like you are and have been better at that than what most agents who you compete with are, and how. And
well, I have a couple examples. One, I just recently was about to get a listing for a client, and they were going through some family stuff, and we're going to have a hard time putting their home on the market and making it available as much as you really need to. And I was actually walking into church one day and ran into a girl that used to live across the street from this particular client and said, hey, I'm about to list these people's home. If you hear of anybody looking, let me know. Well, and the next day I got a call from another broker saying, I heard you're about to list this house. My clients want to come see it before you put it on the market. They came, saw it, and we got it under contract the next day. Wow. So it really worked out well that I was able to kind of network outside of even the real estate community to try and find that buyer.
That's important to do that too. I think we forget that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another example is I work closely with lenders, and I even have a good friend that he and his dad own a mortgage company here in Houston. And I had a particular client that was moving back from Boston, and she and her husband both were on bonus structure for their salary. And a lot of big banks weren't going to loan them the money they needed, even though they would qualify if it was their salary. And I was able to work with a local lender to get them a second lien independently to be able to buy this home when no other lenders in Houston were able to do it. So just things like that I feel like I go above and beyond for my client to try and, when we're told no, I try and figure out if there's any situation or any kind of avenue I can take to try and maybe make things work. Even if whether it's a financial thing, whether it's something in the contract not lining up between the buyers and the sellers, whatever it is, I like to say I don't like to be told no. And I think that maybe helps a little bit for my clients, that I want to persevere and make sure that I have done everything I possibly can to make sure that we haven't missed an opportunity.
Oh, that's awesome. So what do you wish you knew then when you got into this business 9 years ago, or maybe even sooner, that you know now?
I think it again goes back to the same perception that most realtors have getting into the business, that you have a flexible schedule and that you're able to make your own hours and you work when you want to. That's definitely not the case. I think that, I've done a lot of referral marketing type situations and trying to reach out to different law firm recruiters or things like that to try and maybe help some of their summer interns find temporary housing. And then in turn, if they end up taking a job here at that law firm, that they will use me to buy a house. So I think I've learned a lot in terms of, different avenues to get new business. And
you just kind of skimmed over something I want to make sure everybody heard, is that, when you're in business, in a business like ours that is also a business development business, that you do it in a way that you're paying attention to what other people need, you're paying it forward, you're giving people. It's amazing how some of the things I've done, I've thought, why am I even doing this except I just like it or I want to be nice? And those are the things that come back, and you can never expect it, but pay back tenfold. But just being a connector, being someone of value, and being someone who functions and works that way, you function and work that way in your deals, and you make them happen, and get a lot of clients from it. I mean, does that kind of sum up a little bit of what you were saying there?
Yeah, again, like even if you're doing something like you said, like that's not going to pan out as a huge deal for you, or it's not going to really,
or you think it's not, right?
You think is going to, help you in the long run. I mean, you have to always be doing what you think is the right thing, not what's going to be the most successful transaction for you.
Exactly. And you've learned so much from different deals. I mean, again, there have been so many situations where I've just been a nice person, especially with agents. I mean, tell us a little bit about that, relationships with other real estate agents. I think that's where a lot of my successes come from that I would have never expected.
I think being well-liked in the real estate community is so important. You never know when you're going to come across an agent that you maybe have bad blood with that could maybe kill the deal over a relationship, or you never know if you've done something to another agent and they might tell their client, well, we don't want to work with that agent because it's going to be a terrible transaction. So I think having good relationships for that reason is very important, but also just because that is our community and that's who we're going to always be in front of. So you never want to have bad blood with agents that you are going to see all the time. And then just the relationship of them thinking of you if they're about to get a listing or if they maybe want to co-list something with you. I think it's really important that you uphold the same integrity that you do with your clients, with the agents, so you continue to have that, I guess, reputation.
It's not only for your own business, but to be able to benefit your clients. I mean, Lateef Hasten, who was on our show a while ago, she's in Napa, and she specializes in wine vineyards, or that's a lot of what she does. But she says clients come and go. Not that's always who we represent, but the agents in the industry, they're there for a really long time. Not forever, but forever.
Some of them are.
Right, kind of, sort of. Yes, exactly. So that's a really great point. How do you, so you talked a little bit about family and things, but I'd love to talk a little bit about how, you're obviously an agent who's doubling her business every year in 9 years. You've got one assistant and you're always available to your clients. How do you balance that? How do you balance that? Or is there another word for that? Or what would you tell us?
Well, I have 2 young kids and I'm married. I've been married for 8 years. So I think my husband is super supportive. He's understands that if I need to be gone on the weekends, that he's fine, being with the kids. And both of our parents live here, and we have good help. So, we kind of spend time with our kids when we can and when we're not super busy. And then, when we have long days or I work on the weekends, we take turns and we balance it that way. It doesn't always end in pleasant words sometimes if things come up, but we figure it out. And I have a great assistant and she's awesome. And I trust her to be me when I'm not there. So when I'm not able to be there, I know my clients are in good hands.
Can you give us, and I'll read just on what you said too, though, about being successful and balancing with family. It is. You sometimes to be balanced is to not be balanced, is to just figure it out, make sure you enjoy it, make sure you've got the right mindset, make sure you do set some parameters. And before I move on to another question, do you have any, obviously, I've talked to agents and worked with agents who set very strict time limits on when they're going to talk on the phone and when they're going to be available. So on the topic of balance and family and life, obviously you're working, you're juggling, you're figuring it out. You get these agents where they will set very strict times of when they will and won't work. And I don't want to sound cynical or that I'm a grinder and says y'all have to sort of work 24 hours a day to be successful. But I do find that the agents that have done that in their career without some serious leverage and branding up front are often, their businesses tend to dwindle quickly or not get there. But on the flip side of that, some of the most successful agents are some of the calmest, happiest, enjoying life the most agents, and you seem very much that way. How do you make sure you do that? Are there any little checks or any little tricks you have to be able to check out and get some peace of mind and get back to work with some rest so you're at full capacity and not exhausting yourself to the point that you're working less effectively and efficiently? Did that question make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I don't put a schedule or a timeline because I have clients or I have agents that are texting me at 9 o'clock at night asking to talk. So, I mean, if my kids are asleep and I'm not doing anything, I'm happy to take the time to do that because, my clients work too. This is their time to talk about real estate and not during the workday. So I have no problem doing that. And I think my clients respect that if I am doing something that we'll talk at my earliest convenience.
Exactly.
But, I don't think that I would put a timeline on when I can and can't talk because I think so many deals are done sometimes at those hours at night. And I just think you have to be possible for your clients.
Exactly. And I think that also, I've got a lot of clients that will apologize. It's like, look, this is a big deal. I'm here for you. And I got to get a lot more done today because you didn't need to talk at 3 o'clock. I don't say that, but sometimes that's also the case. I think some of it too is like you said, you would never do anything else. You learn, it's a gratitude thing. You learn to appreciate the privilege of what we get to do for a living. And what comes with it is talking at 9 o'clock at night, but realizing even that is not necessarily a burden, but it's a privilege to actually get the deal done.
Right. And time is of the essence in real estate. So if you want to shut your phone off at 5 or 6 o'clock and try and wait and do it the next day, you might lose the deal. I mean, especially if there's a multiple offer situation or there's, one thing that needs to be changed in order to get it in the right time. I mean, there's just so many factors that go into real estate that you really have to be available 24/7. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I've had to step out of an event in the evening, or I've been sick and I've been on the phone closing deals. I mean, that's just the nature of the business. And some of those times are not, the most ideal, this is our job and this is what we do.
Exactly. All right. So I want to close this out with my 3 final fun questions. But I loved your message. I love how you're just like concise. This is simple, no drama. Do your job, get it done, be available, care about people, listen, close them, and then go enjoy your family. And just do it all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So that being said, number 1, in this business and all of that, what have you found is your most effective tool or powerful tool to run your business well or efficiently? Other than your cell phone?
Yeah, my cell phone is obviously, I don't go anywhere without it. I think having a good support.
Yeah, neither do I. Anyway, mine's right here for those of you who aren't watching. But go ahead, but I'm not looking.
Yeah, a good support system is key. I mean, you are a human, you can only do so much and you can only make so much happen. So having the right support staff, I think, is really key, whether it's at home or, in the business world. I think that's huge. I think all the tools that we have as realtors now really help the process be a little bit more simplified. For example, the collections that Compass offers have been really beneficial to me and my clients, and I've gotten great feedback on just how easy it is to use and that it's all in one spot. So we're not having to email, text, call to try and figure out when we're going to see this and that this is the house they want to see. I think that, all of the tools that I have, whether it's the MLS that we use, compass.com, social media, I think just being able, all the technology that we have makes, I think.
So Caroline, you have to tell us one. You just told us several. I'm giving you a hard time, but is there one? Is it Compass Collections?
Yeah, I think Compass Collections has been a great asset to my business and my clients, and I've used it for every buyer since I've been there. So
really? Wow.
Yeah, so I think that it just makes it easier to communicate with my clients, to filter through the listings, and then it also picks up on the Compass coming soon as well, which is not something that can come directly from your MLS if you just have a search set up on that.
And it's Compass coming soon in your market, and it's also Compass coming soon. Well, we have access, and for our clients moving to other markets, we have access to Compass coming soon in other markets. So that's why it's nice to be able to set them up on a search through Collections, because to wherever they're going.
Because a lot of individuals will set up their own search through our local Houston Association of Realtors website, and they think that they're getting all the new listings that come on. They're seeing when things go under contract or when they sell, and Compass Collections allows them to also have all of the Compass coming soon, so it'll filter out anything that might be the criteria they're looking for, and they know about it before anybody else that's not using compass.com.
Exactly. What is, so there's Collections. What is the book that you would say has most impacted your life and or career? Or what would you recommend we read? Or hopefully that's the same.
I have not read a book in a very long time.
What is this? You're like the second interview in a row. Oh my God. I'm kidding.
I honestly, when I have my downtime, I'm, catching emails and catching up on that or spending time with my family.
It's awesome.
Really don't have time to sit down and read a book. I listened to a podcast on my recent vacation where it was just my husband and I. But that's
it was the Jere Metcalf podcast, wasn't it? Was that it?
No, it was Serial.
Which one is it?
Serial?
Like
Serial.
Which kind? SERIL or
IAL? Yeah.
Okay.
About it's just about the justice system and how terrible it is, basically. And basically, it's a really interesting kind of theory that they set up, that they put this journalist in, I think it was in Cincinnati courtroom, and she was able to listen in, talk to some of the counsel, talk to some of the defendants, and really watch the story kind of from beginning to end and see what the verdict is. And honestly, just how corrupt and how different the legal system is than most people see in their eyes. And it really gives you an insight into how it works. And I think it's good to know about that, even though we're not in the legal system every day.
I was going to say, are we going to sell more houses from that? But it's a reality check. Keep going. It's a reality check for sure, but keep going with where you were going with that.
Yeah, that was basically it. Just really getting, just kind of opening your eyes to what the majority of the population deal with when they have to go through the legal system. And I'm fortunate that I've never had to do that before, so I don't really have anything to compare it to. But I think we'll really see, the black and white and how it really is.
Wow. So last question. What is the one thing that you would hope we take away from this interview, if there's only going to be one thing?
I think it would probably just be to any agent, whether they're just getting into real estate or they've been in real estate for their whole career. I think really just being as thoughtful and mindful with your clients as you would any of your friends and family, and giving everybody the same courtesy and the same time that you would, no matter what they're buying, selling, or leasing, and just to be as transparent and as available as you can, because I think that's what makes you really successful in this industry.
I love what you said. I think that's important to remember and to think about, is be as thoughtful and considerate. I don't know if those were the words you used, but be as thoughtful and considerate with your clients as you are and would be if they were your friends and your family, because ultimately they kind of are.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of my clients have turned into good friends and people that I see on a regular basis, and I always want people to not think of me as just their real estate agent that helped them buy their house, but I want to have a relationship with a lot of my clients, and I want them to feel like, yes, they can call me for any real estate needs, but I'm also developing a relationship with them as well during this process. And sometimes when it's over, I am always like, I really enjoyed working with them. I'm going to miss talking to them and working on this, but I think that you have to think of every deal you do, every transaction as a business relationship and a friendship that you're building with somebody.
Well, and it reminds me of Leonard Steinberg. What did we name that podcast, Isaac? I think it was he was either it's business, it's personal, or it's not business, it's personal. But the message was business, whatever, it's personal, and this business is personal.
It's very personal.
Yeah. And Isaac will tag that for everybody so we can see the name. Or Isaac, what was it? Do you have it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, what you're saying reminds me a lot about the interview with Leonard Steinberg. He says it isn't business, it's personal, what it takes to be number one. And he doesn't even focus on being number one, even though he was number one in the country and probably has been a couple times, or a few times. But it is. It's business, and it is all personal.
It's very personal. It's a very personal decision for the transaction, the house they're buying or selling, but it's also a personal relationship between you and your client. And I think the more you can understand that and the more you utilize those feelings and aspects of it, I think it will help your career.
And it makes it more fun.
It definitely makes it more fun.
Gives it meaning. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Welcome.